Hey guys, welcome back, and today we are meal prepping. So I have an extremely busy schedule, and living alone, I really struggle finding ways to portion food when I cook and eat adequately in my schedule. So I decided to try meal prepping this week. I started off with some chicken breasts that I have seasoned with just a couple of the seasonings that I have in my pantry. Use whatever you have in your pantry. And then I just laid them out in a baking dish as such. I also cut up some onions and peppers to go on top just for extra flavoring in there as it's cooking. And we're going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees. I'm also making potato soup this week, so I'm frying me up some bacon on my stove. I like my bacon fairly crispy, so as soon as that crisp up, I'm going to remove that from the pot. That piece wasn't quite done, so we're just going to let that sit in there a little bit longer. Sweet potatoes are also on the menu today, so I've cut these up and rinsed them. I'm going to make the mixture for that as well, which is just butter, sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and we're just going to drizzle that on top. Sprinkle it with a little bit of cinnamon for a little bit of extra, and that's also going to go in the oven. Barbecue sauce on top of the chicken halfway through cooking as well. I kept the grease in from the bacon, and we're just going to pour the potatoes in there on top. We added some milk and some chicken broth to that. We're going to let that cook down a little bit and move on to the steak. So I season my steak plainly. I know, guys. I just season it with salt and pepper on both sides, and I make sure that it's really thoroughly seasoned. I feel like a good steak really only needs salt and pepper. As you see, I have a ribeye with the bone still in because that is my favorite. So while that's getting seasoned, I'm going to move on to the mashed potatoes. I'm just using the leftover potatoes for my potato soup, and I'm just pouring that in some already boiling water. We're going to cover those up and let those cook as well. The chicken has finished up with my barbecue sauce, onions, and peppers. So we're going to move on to a little roux for my potato soup. So in this pot, I'm just whisking together a little bit of flour and butter to make that soup a little bit thicker. I'm then going to scoop a little bit of that soup into the mixture. I think this is called, I don't really know what this step is called, but I know this step is important. So you want to just take about 2 scoops to add it into your roux mixture. And as soon as you get those scoops in there, you want to just mix that around a little bit. It thickens up as you see. And then we're going to pour it back into the pot of potato soup. And it actually thickens up quite instantly when you do that, which is what you want, is a nice consistency potato soup. I'm mashing the potatoes down just a little bit. I don't want whole potatoes. And then I'm going to add in extra seasoning salt because potatoes, guys, use a lot of salt. So we don't want to under season our potato soup. The next thing we're going to add, just for a little bit of flavor and thickness, is some half and half. I just kind of sized it up and poured it in there. It's going to look a little light, but we're going to fix that. I love half and half in cooking. We're going to move on to broccoli, which I've never made like this, so I'm excited. I've washed and cut up some broccoli, putting on a baking dish, and I'm just drizzling it with a little bit of oil. And I'm going to season that with some salt and pepper and bake that as well. I've seen a lot of people try roasted broccoli. I've never tried it, but I love broccoli, so I'm always looking for different ways to cook it. So I was eager to see how this was going to turn out. So we're just mixing all that together and back to our potato soup, which is actually coming together quite well. You can't have potato soup without some cheese, so I'm just topping that with a little bit of mild cheddar cheese and giving that a whisk. You can see the color has come back a little bit, which is exactly what we want. Now for the potatoes, mashed potatoes that I'm making, in there I roast garlic. I think it makes a world of difference in your potatoes, so you can see me adding that now. Also in that pan is just butter and sour cream. so we can have some creamy potatoes. And we're just going to mash that all together. Garlic mashed potatoes are one of my favorite sides. So you just kind of mash these potatoes until they get to your preferred consistency. Obviously, the more you mash them, the more creamier they will be. I like mine somewhere in the middle. I do still like to chew a little bit on the potato, but not too. So this is about how I like my mashed potatoes. And obviously, cheese goes on top because I love cheese. Now on to the steak. I've just added some butter to a pan and I'm going to put the steak right on top of that. I also decided to cut up some onions. I love onions, sauteed onions, with my steak. And we're going to just let that cook and then flip that as well. I like my steak medium temperature, so that's what we're going for here. I am going to put it in the oven for a significant amount of time just because it is a thicker piece of steak. I do want to make sure it's cooked in the middle. The potatoes have come out and will just sit for a little bit. They look so yummy. And the steak as well, I flipped it and now I've added a piece of butter to the top. I cut up my steak when I eat it. I just feel like it makes it easier to eat. So here you see me cut them up into steak bites, and then we're just going to toss them around a little bit just to make sure they're cooked as is. Here is my meal prep for the week. I have broccoli, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, potato soup, steak bites, and barbecue chicken with onions and peppers. So now during my busy week, I don't have to worry about eating or spend money on eating out. I can come home and warm one of these dishes up.